Look, I got a testimony. I gotta tell him what God did. I'm calling God the homie. He took me out of the mosh pit. I will contest the phony. Separate demons and God's kids. I gotta spread his word, so I'ma show you who the God is. The word is my weapon. I move like a general.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Walk With Me. I am your host, JJ. It's so good to have each and every one of you here. It's so good to see each and every one of the downloads and all of that. And I really appreciate how much you guys are sharing and liking, and even some of the emails and stuff that I get. No, let me rephrase it. I like all the emails, even you guys are choose not to be less friendly, I suppose. But here's the thing. Interaction is interaction. So I enjoy those emails. Even if I have to go back and forth with you, and I say have to as if it's some great torture, but no, it really is a joy to me. And I enjoy answering questions. And matter of fact, today's episode is based on a question. So thank you, each and every one of you. If you have questions or comments, go ahead and you know what to do. Go ahead and hit me at the Walk With Me Bible Study at Gmail. Walk With Me Bible Study at Gmail address. If you do not want your name to be mentioned, and so far, and I'm okay with this, only one person has requested their name to be mentioned. That's okay. But if you don't want your name to be mentioned, do not put it in the subject matter, in the subject line. If you are okay with your name being mentioned, for whatever reason, put your name in the subject line so I know to address you directly. So, thank you so much for our sponsors. Thank you so much for True Boss Lyricist sending us the intro and outro music. I'm waiting for some more. Whenever you are ready, sir. I'm willing this time to. I love your music, so I hope that I can get something else from you. Big shout out to Bryson Gray. If you don't know who that is, look him up. He's not a sponsor, but I'm just saying big shout out to him. Big shout out to our other sponsor, Exquisite Creations. We are on a journey. Big shout out to our new LLC. I said I was going to mention that a few weeks ago. We are now a part of Iron Gate Ministries, and that is big news. I am very excited to see what God has in store for us. Thank you all for your love and support, and just doing the will of God. Thank you so much. We're going to get into our lesson today, our episode today, as it were. And it really has to do with one central tenet of what we consider Christmas worship. And one of the things about crafting a great story is that you weave a lot of threads together and it makes a nice story. And as long as you don't pull at any of the threads, the story sort of stays intact. But sometimes if you pull at a story, it starts to unravel. And sorry about that, folks. And this is the same way we have with our a Christmas story. That if you pull at one of the thread starts to unravel. So we are going to talk about today, for just a short time, this Christmas story that we find so entertaining. Now, I'm going to touch on a few things, and maybe we'll come back to them in another episode. But once you pull on this thread, you can't put it back in this way. Okay. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is the fact that the way we celebrate Christmas at this moment is not biblical. Now, I know. You think I'm going to talk about December 25th? No. I mean, we can. It's another thread that we can pull at, but we're not going to go for something so obvious because we know there's no shepherd in the world that's going to be outside during that time of year. Okay, that's fine. However, what we do want to talk about is this nativity scene. Just today, we want to talk about the nativity scene today. maybe next week, if you guys still send me questions about it, we'll keep going along in some of our Christmas traditions that are really anti-biblical. And I know that's a hard word, and I know that we've been kind of groomed and conditioned that this is supposed to be a joyful thing, and it's so much quote unquote joy wrapped around the season. There should be joy wrapped around the season, but not for the commercial aspect that we have. And I'm actually of the opinion, this is just my opinion, I believe that the reason why people generally feel so down around the holidays and feel so morose and self-harming sort of way is that you kind of lost the idea of the reason why the season happened, and so celebrating it in that way sort of gets you in trouble. And now, when faced with the consequences of that, there's no answer, and this sort of leads some people down a dark spiral. But what we're going to talk about today, again, forgive me for rambling a bit, we're going to talk about today are the three wise men. That's right, three wise men. Once you begin to pull at that thread, everything begins to fall apart. And sometimes we just accept these things, and we just accept them as tradition. And we accept them because we've seen so many nativity scenes where, Mary and Joseph and they're standing around with three wise men, and they got frankincense and myrrh, and they're kneeling, and you have some shepherds standing over in the corner looking confused and sheepish. But we are not really understanding why this could not have happened this way. We're not understanding that this sort of thing is one of the main problems why in your mind things couldn't have happened this way, and it sort of casts doubt on the entire reason of Jesus coming, and therefore on Christianity itself. It's sort of a it's kind of a situation where we used to talk about in computer programming what's called a cascading failure, where if you miss a problem in the computer line we used to write BASIC, if you miss a problem in one of the programming lines and you put a go-to in it, it would literally cause that problem to cascade down further and collapse some of the other programs. And then you'd have just a whole problem with the program and you wouldn't even know where to start. So this is a cascading failure. So let's talk about what we have. The three wise men could not have possibly been in that manger. And Jesus wasn't in that manger when they met him. Well, yeah, when he received the gifts from him. And to find this out, we only have to go to Matthew chapter 2 and just kind of use our brains a little bit. All right? So let's start at Matthew chapter 2, where it talks about the wise men from the east. Now, how far east did they come from? There are people who say they came from as far away as India. One narrator said they came from China. One said they came from what is now known as Afghanistan. Either way, that's coming from quite a far ways off, especially if you're coming by camel. Camels are not the fastest animals in the world. So, we're going to start off reading verse 1 out of chapter 2. Now, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Okay, we got that. Okay? And in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Now, if you just use that verse right there, you just take one verse, you would think that they arrived when Jesus was born. Exactly the day Jesus was born. However, if you read further, which is true in most biblical, or let's call it churchiology, Christianology tradition, if you read further, you begin to debunk your own theory. Because these wise men came saying, "Where is he that was born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east," which means he these guys saw the star where they were in the east. And in the way, when you say the east, you're thinking the Orient. You're thinking, where modern day Korea and Singapore and all these places we call the east. Even as far west as India. Everything west of India is what we call the Middle East, not the East. So it's important to understand the terminology. We have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard these messages, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. We have gathered all the priests, chief priests, and scribes together. He demanded of them where Christ should be born. Please understand, I am reading from the King Version, but I'm just sort of abridging it just for time. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for it is written by the prophet, and thou Bethlehem in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah? From out of these shall come a governor that shall rule my people. So they're telling you, they're confirming that, yeah, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Exactly what we just read. And he sent them by them, we're talking about the wise men, go to Bethlehem, search diligently for this kid, and when you find him, bring me, tell me where he is, and I'll come and worship him alone. And so they heard the king, and these wise men, they left, and they saw the star again, which the same star which they saw in the east. And the star actually went before them, so it literally traveled before them until it came and stood over where the young child was. Now I'm going to say something here. There are some Bible scholars that I will give an ounce of belief to, is that star was the devil. It wasn't an actual star. It was actually Lucifer, because he is also referred to as the morning star. He is also referred to as an angel of light. He is referred to as this, and we have never seen a star actually travel with someone. But a devil will travel with you. Now, I don't know if that's the case, or was it a star as a star that you and I would know, because it was very difficult for a star to travel with someone and then sit on top of a building. So this is and the reason why there are people who think this is the devil, because of what happens next. All right, so when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. But here's the thing. It said it stood over where the young child was, not where the infant was, not where the newborn was. See, the writers of the Bible were not illiterate. Where the young child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. Now, I want to stop right here. And I want to go back to the story of Moses, because there are some similarities here. When Moses was in the land of Egypt, there went out a decree that all children 2 years age and under should be killed. Why? Because again, one of the pesky prophets went out there and told them that a child is born that will lead the people out of Egypt. One of them pesky prophets went out there and told everybody what God told him to say. And so, Herod had the same problem that these pharaohs had. Herod was looking at the idea that some kid was born that was threatening his power supply. So, the next thing he did was, that's right, he had people killed. But I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, because it's one really important thing that I want to discuss. And when they came into the house, now we're in Matthew chapter 2, verse 11. When they came into the house, not the manger, not the barn, not the inn. When they came into the house, they saw the young child, not the infant, not the baby in swaddling clothes, but the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country, which means they were not in Judea. They were not in Israel to begin with. They departed into their own country. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, take the young child and flee into Egypt. Didn't we just talk about that? Flee into Egypt and be there until I bring you word, until I tell you to come back. Go there and stay until I get, send for you. For Herod will seek this young child to destroy him. And basically, he went down there and he stayed until Herod died. And this also was to fulfill another one of those pesky prophets running around saying, out of Egypt I have called my son. So now Herod got into a position where he saw that he was being mocked of the wise men because, hey, I'm just going to go back the other way. Let this idiot keep looking for this guy who's going to threaten his power. That has nothing to do with me. The wise men said to themselves, hey, you know what's none of my business? That. But you know what? I'm going to worship this God because this is the true God. So when Herod saw that this was happening, he was really angry. And what he did was he sent the word out to kill all the children. And verse 16 is very important. From 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Herod knew that when these guys had come, they started out when they saw the star. And the star happened when Jesus was born. And it took them a long time to get there. They didn't get there. Like, I know in today's day and age, we think of our cars, we think of planes, we think of trains, we think of, oh my God, it takes so long to get from, Texas to New York. Oh wow, it really takes 10 hours by plane. Oh my. Or it takes 5 hours by plane. Oh my. It takes, 3 days by car. Oh my. The same journey would have taken 6 months by horse. By camel. Oh, you're talking about a whole different story. So we're talking about at least a year's worth of travel from the time the wise men left the east and got to Jerusalem or to Bethlehem. And some Bible scholars say that it was closer to 2 years. And Herod knew right away when the wise men turned around and left and went back to their country, because and he reacted that day. He didn't allow that to fester. He just went off on this killing spree and killed all the children 2 years old and younger. And this was what was fulfilled by the prophet Jeremiah, saying in verse 18, in Ramah there was a voice heard, a lamentation, a weep and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and would not be comforted because they are not. So, no, the wise men did not show up at the manger. And once you put on that thread, you begin to question a lot of different things. Yes, true. The baby was wrapped and laid in a manger. This is true, because that's what it said. But however, baby wasn't born in the manger. Baby was placed there. And no, the wise men did not arrive on Jesus' birthday. They arrived about from my best estimate, from about a year and a half to 2 years later, based on the travel speed of a camel. Closer maybe to maybe a year and a half. And it took Herod that long to find out that wise men went back a different way. And they knew. Here's the funny part. The wise men knew, they were wise, that Herod would be watching the way they came. And they knew because God told them to go back a different way. See, one of the wisest things we can do is listen to when God is warning us not to do something. One of the wisest things we can do is pay attention to that voice that some people like to clown a little bit, and I get it. But pay attention to when that voice is telling you that you should maybe take another thought about what you're about to do. And you and I, we all know this. Like when you're about to really lay into your loved one or something that they did, you get that little bit of stop saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't say it that way. Maybe you shouldn't deal with it that way. Why don't you? And then by this time, we're so angry, we're so hot-headed that we kind of get lost in the sauce, so to speak, and we just open our mouth and just let it fly. This is not how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to listen to the Spirit of God when He tells us not to do something or to do something. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to God telling me to, hey, why don't you wait here for a few seconds? I have no idea what God just helped me avoid, but I do know sometimes when I've ignored that voice, the stuff has happened. I've gotten into bike accidents or things have happened. I got to work too early or too late, or and I got into traffic or something like that. It doesn't have to be dramatic, but I may have gotten into traffic and then I end up late for work when God was telling me to leave early, so forth and so on. There are certain lessons to be gleaned even from this set of scripture. Yeah. Wise men did not show up on Jesus' birthday. They did not see him in a manger. They saw him in a house. They saw him in Mary's house, in Joseph's house, and they were already married. And when they went back a different way, and that amount of time was 2 years. And it doesn't mention that the wise men stayed any length of time. Now, I would hope they didn't do what I refer to as a turn and burn, like they just came and got the gifts and left. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they did that, but it also doesn't seem like they stayed any length of time. God may have actually warned them about to go back a different way before they even got to Bethlehem. Because God knows what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen if God tells us that this is going to happen. So just be aware that, once you start pulling at that thread, you start thinking about why were the shepherds outside if it was December and it's cold? Why is it, why do we use a Christmas tree? And why do we use Christmas lights and holly? And why do we use all these things? And there's lots of scriptures we could talk about, like Jeremiah 10. We're not going to get into it because of time, but be careful how you celebrate Christ's birthday. Please understand that the reason why we celebrate Christmas is not because you want a new pair of shoes and you want a new Xbox and things of that nature. We are celebrating Jesus' birth because that was the day that our salvation plan was finally enacted. The beginning of our salvation plan, or this chapter of our salvation plan, was enacted. In order for that to happen, Jesus had to be following his own rules, and he had to have a ministry. He had to grow. He had to be sinless. He had to die for us. He was the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. And as someone said in Matrix, it happened the way it happened, and it couldn't have happened any other way. This is why. Now, I'm not saying, please understand, before we get all off, flood my email with comments. I am not saying do not give gifts. That's not what I'm saying. And if that makes you feel okay, that feels great. But don't give gifts to the point where you are financially stressed. Don't give. That's not the reason why we are celebrating that his gift of his blood for our remission of our sins. That's not why we're celebrating. What we're celebrating is the fact that we are now able to be born of the water and the spirit and see the kingdom of God. Like I said, want to give gifts, that's fine. We should also be celebrating our families. We should be celebrating new beginnings. We should be celebrating a lot of these things wrapped up in the Christmas season that have nothing to do with spending money. Nothing to do with throwing up a bunch of decorations that didn't work from last year. So you have to keep buying new ones every year. That's what Christmas season is really about. And it's easy to say peace and reason for the season, and then we go and we put our gifts in front of this idol tree. So that being said, no, you guys that have asked me, that did not happen. The wise men came to a house, and Jesus had to be somewhere about a year old, maybe as much as a year and a half. All right? I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your interest in this program. You guys can be listening to any other podcast. You've chosen a moment to listen to this, and I hope it edified you. I hope it answers some questions. I hope it as you walk with me, and as we go into a deeper relationship and knowledge of God, that you get something from this. And if as you go out along the way, if you see somebody, there's a lot of people out there with fake smiles. I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna end. A lot of people out there with fake smiles, and people who are smiling on the outside and dying on the inside. We don't have to look for somebody who looks like they're depressed and say Jesus loves them. Just tell them Jesus loves them. Tell them that there's a better way, and the better way, and let God do what He does. All right. Love each and every one of you. Hope to hear from you again. Walk with me Bibles to email.com with comments and questions. I hope to see you on the next one. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Yeah. True. See, I do it for Jesus. Everything I do, give me a reason. I got to spread all the words of a genius. Everybody need to know who the leader. See, I do it for Jesus. Everything I do, give me a reason.